Hello, everyone. I welcome you all participants in this workshop related to effective research writing skills development on behalf of International Internship University, which is the world's first internship-based virtual university, building a better and brighter future for all young learners, and is committed to provide quality, accessible, affordable, skill-based, and location-independent education to learners across the world. IIU is providing access to more than 1,000 courses and internship programs to their e-learners across the globe, with the team of high caliber and experienced global educators. IIU has been accredited and affiliated with the World Education Organization and International Accreditation Organization and collaborated with all the world's top universities and educational institutions through the platform of massive open online courses. IIU offers various certificates and diploma courses. There is always that one person who has been the vision, the thought, the idea behind a successful venture and organization. And if we talk about the man behind the success of IIU, is none other than our beloved co-founder of IIU, Mr. Piyush Pandit. He concocted the world's first virtual internship university during a pandemic, the International Internship University, the IIU. Once again, I would like to thanks all the participants, and here I'm going to kickstart the learning process. Let me share my screen and then I'll definitely start my presentation. I hope you all can see my screen now. So my name is Syed Shahid, and in our research publication, research transmission, we used to say that one picture is worth than 100 of words. And in this digital era, we used to say that one video is worth more than thousands of words. So I'm going to share with you a 1.5 minute video to introduce myself. So that's me, Dr. Shahid, and let's start talking about what is important being researcher. If we are researcher, we are actually rated by what they finish, what we finish, not what we attempt to. And our finishing, our end of research is actually by means of a publication. And we used to say that we either publish or perish. And it is a famous saying from a famous scientist Faraday that there are three mandatory steps in a useful research project. The first to begin it, the second to end it, and third to publish it. If you end it a research project successfully and you fail to publish, that means you haven't done it. International publications, some facts and figures about it so that you can have an idea of what is the scope of it and how broad the scope is. Web of Science core collection covers about 15,000 top tier international and regional journals and periodicals in many different areas of natural sciences, social sciences, and arts and humanities. Similarly, ISI Web of Knowledge, which is a famous search engine for all different variety of research publications, it has got more than 50 million items today. Google Scholar covers all these things, which we call them the world bibliometry. Some more facts and figure about it. More than 55,000, I repeat, more than 55,000 journals published on regular basis. Half of them are indexed and abstracted in many different organizations, many different indexing services. More than 5 million manuscripts published annually. And the best figure that I'm going to share with you now, more than half of them are never cited. So we are going to talk about that. What does it mean and how we can propagate our research so that it can be easily cited by different scientists and researchers. 60 million articles have been published since known history till 2020. Over 50% of research papers receive different citations. More than 90% of research readers glance through content list only the list of content, but they don't go into the details of all the research paper or research article that we are going to talk about today. Then we also need to understand that only 5% open access journals are available to review through their titles. Less than 2% scientists read through to the abstract and summary and then introduction. And then last but not the least, only 1% of research publications, your audience read the rest of the paper. So if you want your paper, your publication, after you have published it, and you want your reader, your audience to read through to full paper, you have to follow the steps that we are going to talk today. Some more information about different journals published in variety of disciplines like arts and humanities, more than 1,700 journals. Some medical and health sciences, more than 1,500 journals. Engineering, computers, IT, 1,500 journals. Agriculture, biology, environmental sciences, 1,300. Chemistry, biotechnology, biological abstracts. So this is the list of number of journals which I have recently extracted from Science and Thomson Writers. How to get a paper published? This is the question which comes in our mind as soon as we come to an end, as soon as our research project comes to an end. Why it is so difficult? Why it is so easy? So we need to understand some of the facts and figures. So there is a great competition for space in journals today. And that is the reason why we see many of the journals, they started publishing online only. They don't use papers. They have put some fees on it. And some of the journals, they ask for a lot of money if you want your research to be published. Rejection rate vary. And some of the journals I know, I have been working with the many journals as member editorial board, member reviewer board, and their rejection rate is more than 90%. Can you believe? Some of the journal, they have 95% rejection rate. If they receive 100 papers, 100 publications, 100 submissions, not the publications, they reject more than 90% of those. And on what are the basis? We will definitely look into it. What makes a good research paper? Definitely, we have to have something good to feed into. Good research. And then, if you are a good researcher, it does not mean that you are a good writer as well. So you have to learn how to write. You have to learn how to write appropriately so that your good research that you think you have done a good research, you need to learn how to write that good research in an appropriate manner. And then you need to understand in which journal you can send your research paper to be published. Then we also need to understand few more things which are the constituents of good space. appropriate space where you can submit your research publication for publication. Impact factor. This is one thing which we will talk about. This is the one and universally accepted measure for the quality of research journal. High impact journals are the ones which have high frequency of citations by others. This is something when you publish your research in a journal, how many times it is being read or it is being cited by co-researchers or by your audience. It is a superficial but internationally accepted measure of quality of journal, so we need to follow. A good high impact journal may publish. Now, this is very important point. It does not, if you are reading through a very good impact factor journal, it does not mean that it will have all good quality articles. Similarly, if you are reading through a low quality journal, it does not mean that it will have all low quality articles. So this thing go vice versa. Now, what is impact factor? What I'm talking about? It is, as I said already, it is a measure to check the quality of a journal, and it is a calculated value which is average number of times published papers are cited up to 2 years after publication, and very simple formula is given. I hope you can see and understand. The impact factor is equal to the citations. For example, if a paper is published in 2019 to the articles published in 2018 and 2017 divided by the articles published in 2018 and 2017. So it is a ratio between the citations of an article published in 2019 to the articles published in 2018 and 17 divided by the number of articles published in 2018 and 17. And then we see some of the journals have 40 plus impact factor, and some of the journals still they have only 0.5 impact factor. So this is the measure. By looking into, you can understand the journal that you are looking for is a good quality journal or a bad quality or low quality journal. Then we have another measure, which we call that immediacy index. It is the average number of times published papers are cited during the year of publication. Again, it's all about citation. So we really need to understand that we have to receive citation. And if you remember in previous slide, I share with you that only 1% of research papers are read completely and cited. So it is really difficult task that your research publication is cited so that your research article can be considered as a good quality article. Some of the very good quality journals in my field, because I am from medical and health sciences, so I can share with you. Nature, famous journal, has got an impact factor as of 2020, 49.9. Similarly, Science, which always receive pioneer research, has got a 47.7 impact factor. Then we have some specialized journals like hypertension and diabetes, 10 and 7 impact factors, which is still very good impact factor. Then we have another index to measure the quality of your research publication, the quality of scientists, and the quality of a research organization as well, which we call it H index or Hirsch index. It actually measures both the productivity and impact factor, the published work of a researcher. This is an index which is based on the set of scientists' most cited research publications and the number of citations. So if you are a researcher, you have been publishing your research in many different journals, you will have an H index for you. And the journal in which you are publishing your article will also have an H index. And the organization or a university where you are working, where you are researching, will also have an H index. So the H index can also be applied to the productivity and impact of a group of scientists, your group, for example, as a department or university or even a country. So it's a progressive number. If you are an individual, you can have an H index, your organization will have an H index, and your country will also have. This is the description what H index is. It is based on a list of publications ranked in descending order by the times your publications are cited. The value of H is equal to the number of papers in the list of your publication that have N or more times cited. So for example, if you have 10 publications and 5 of your publications are cited 5 times or more. I repeat, to give you an idea, if you have 10 publications in total, 10 research papers published, 5 of those have been cited by others 5 times or more, then your H index will be 5. I hope it will make sense. I have recently extracted this H index citation from Google Scholar from my account. So it shows since 2017, I have got 12 H index, and for all of my research papers, it's 15. Citations are also given 820 for all of my researches since 2015 up to 2022, and 500 for the last 5 years. So H index for all of my research publications is 15, means that 15 of my research publications out of total 50 plus research papers have been cited 15 or more times. Similarly, in the last 5 years, 12 of my research publications have been cited 12 times or more. Now let's start talking about research writing. How to start writing research paper? Time to write the paper. What you need to have in your mind when you start writing research paper. Now there are few questions which I have developed for you to think about it. When you start writing, think about your research which you have done. Have you made a significant contribution? Is the hypothesis that you have tested through your research is straightforward? For example, a research question. Is it understandable? Can your research community in your particular field understand your hypothesis, your research question? Then think about the experimentation that you have conducted, the practical, the experiments, the research method that you have followed. Test the hypothesis. Did you test the hypothesis which you proposed at the start of your research? Then think about the participants, samples, patients, for example, in medical health science research, or controls are appropriate or sufficient enough to say something, to talk about the conclusion. Then last two questions, and the most important thing, I always suggest my research student to describe your research in 1 or 2 minutes and write your research findings in 1 or 2 sentences. If you can do that, it means that you have sufficient amount of material that you can put forward into a research paper. So I repeat, are you able to describe your research in 1 or 2 minutes? Are you able to write a couple of sentences so that I can understand what you have done? Those who have the most to say usually say it in a fewer words. It is again very famous saying. We don't need pages and pages to reflect on what we have done as far as our research are concerned. Then we also need to understand the illustrations, diagrams, figures, tables, calculations should be clear, concise, self-explanatory. And then there is another very important part of it, which definitely on day 2, Dr. Siham will talk about in details, referencing. What journals you are referencing, you are going to use in your references, and what possible reviewers you are going to use in your research publication process. And the next part comes how to select an appropriate journal, which is really very important. So what we need to do, we really need to understand instructions to author or guide to author. Whatever journal you select for yourself, for your research to publish, read through to the guide, read through the instructions which are always given. And definitely they provide you all possible help and support so that you can manufacture, you can prepare, you can format your publication, your paper according to their publication style. Think about possible reviewers. majority of journals, they ask for reviewers, names of the reviewers. So you need to have some idea of some of the important personalities who have been working in your field, so that you can provide their contact details. And there is no harm if you inform them beforehand, so that they can expect your article to be reviewed from the journal. Know the frequency of publication. Some of the journals publish monthly, some of the journals publish biannually, and some of the journals still publish annually. So you need to consider your situation. When do you need your paper to be published? For example, in some of the universities, if you are doing PhD, they want at least one research paper published. So if you are going to submit your PhD thesis and your research paper is not published, then try to find some journal which can publish your research paper quickly. And then if you are worried about the quality of journal, definitely look into the impact factor. Some of the websites I have given, which help you to suggest which journal is appropriate for your research. You can use Elsevier, you can use Springer, you can also use Wiley, you can use Taylor and Francis, and then there are others as well. So I have extracted few world famous journal publications organizations. Then look into your tentative title and summary. And also you need to be very careful about authors, which you are going to add, which you are going to include in your research paper. Few more points for you to think about when you are selecting a journal. The topic of your research and the scope of the journal, whether the journal is going to publish your research or not. Then who is going to read if your article is published in the journal? Who will be the audience? The type of article that journal publishes. For example, if you have a review article to publish and the journal does not publish a review article, then you will waste your time. Similarly, if you have a short commentary, or if you have a letter to editor, or if you have a case study analysis, and the journal that you are targeting do not publish those few things, then definitely in the end, after a couple of months time, they will come back to you that, sorry, because your article is a review article or a letter to the editor, and we have no policy to publish letter to the editor or a short case study, so we regret to inform you that we cannot publish it. So 2-3 months all wasted. Then length restrictions, reputation of journal, frequency, as I already discussed. You have to think about your situation and then look into the frequency, how many times the journal is published. Time for publication, open access, publication charges, and many different things you need to understand. So these few points always keep in mind whenever you are going to select a journal for your publication. Then I would also like to talk about reasons for rejection. On what basis our papers, our research communications are rejected? As I already mentioned, as far as my editorial experience is concerned, more than 95% submissions are straight away rejected, because we don't consider high impact research and low impact research. So this cartoon simply shows the law of gravity in its original form. And if you are going to reproduce something, reproduction is always good. However, you will still need to put some content in it, put some research in it. Confirmatory, not novel. If you are doing something just to confirm which someone has already confirmed, definitely there are very likely chances that your paper will be rejected. If your experimental design is not appropriate, your number of participants, number of samples, number of controls are not sufficient, hypothesis not adequately tested, your research question was not described properly, your research question was not answered in your research, definitely there are chances that your paper will not be accepted. And many times I have seen the journal we select, the journal the researchers select is not appropriate for the research that you have done. So that is the first point which I have highlighted during the last slide description, that you have to go through the scope of the journal many times sometimes. Major reasons for rejection: submission of papers which are clearly out of scope, I have already discussed this. Failure to format the paper according to the guide of authors, inappropriate or not suggested reviewers, inadequate response to reviewers, inadequate standard of English, English grammar, proofreading, spellings, comma, punctuation, paragraphs, many different things come under this heading. And then resubmission of rejected manuscripts without revision. Many times we see that students, they don't modify their paper, they don't comply with the reviewer's comments, and they resubmit and they receive another rejection. Submit to the right journal. Look for the scope of the journal. Submit to one journal only. This is really important that you don't submit many journals once. Do not submit salami articles. Pay attention to journal requirements. Pay attention to the structure, format which a journal requires. Check the English. I have said already, English does not only mean that you use very long and complicated sentences. No, you have to use simple language, you have to use understandable language, you have to use clear sentences, simple sentences, appropriate grammar, punctuation, paragraphings, everything. And pay attention to the ethical standards, specifically about the journal that you are submitting and the paper and the research that you have done. Authorship guidelines, again, Dr. Siham will definitely talk about this on day 2, but it's really important to understand that who are going to be the authors and co-authors of your paper. There is a criteria, there is an ethical criteria that you need to follow. When you start writing your paper, the hardest part is getting started. I have discussed this many times with my student that you take a couple of weeks to only to start with. So this is, I think, is the hardest part. What type of article, what type of paper you are talking about, what type of article you are interested in? Original article, short communication, research note, case study, supplementary article, review article, letter to the editor. So all the things are different. So you have to decide what you are going to do. You cannot modify an original paper into a review article. Similarly, if you have a case study, you cannot write a review article from a case study. So if you are going to write a letter to the editor, you definitely need to understand the difference between an original article and letter to the editor. How to end up with a good research publications? You have to have a novel research idea. As I mentioned before, that you have to think about whether you have made a significant contribution to the field that you are working in. Quality research, good writing and attractive presentation, and then you can be able to publish in a high impact factor journal. Writing, we used to say, is a critical step in research. Although researchers are not trained to write, I have said many times, even every creative experiments and the research is not novel, but some of the novel research will have dull impact if the manuscript, if the research paper is not very well written. So doing research is one thing, and making a manuscript is another. How to improve your writing skills? If you want to write a good research paper, you have to have a habit of reading good articles within the same field, and then start writing and try write. And first, freely start writing your thoughts without making any paragraphs, any sections, and then later you can be able to accommodate accordingly. Use the best paper in your field as a template. So it is again an skill that how to extract a best paper. You need to look into a good quality journal, and then you need to go for an author who has been working in this field for long, in your field for long. Keep writing, concise, dynamic, and simple in construction, and then try to show your passion, try to show your enthusiasm, try to show that you were motivated when you start doing this research. And this should be able to attract your audience in the end. What could be the parts of manuscript? You all know, if you have read through some of the research article, that there will be a title, topic of your research paper, abstract, summary, introduction, methodology, results, findings, discussion, acknowledgements, and references. But this is not the order you write it. So I used to provide an order in which my student used to write a research paper. First, they need to think about a title because they need to select a journal. And as soon as they select a journal, they need to go through to the guidelines which are available on the journal's website or the journal in itself. So you need to select everything and then you need to think about a title. Then we used to collect materials and method, because this is the thing that you have already done. If you have done a research, you will definitely know about what methodology you have adopted while working on a particular research project. So next we compile materials and methods. Then again, if you have done a research, you will know what are the findings, what are the results. And then we combine research, introduction, and discussion, which comes from the review of literature and what others have done before in the field that you have done. And after doing materials and method, research findings, introduction, discussion, you need to summarize everything in a way that will put forward a very good abstract. And in the end, you write acknowledgements, and everything you have to provide substantial evidence from the literature cited by means of references. And references, by the way, you have to be very careful about the format of references, because every journal uses different referencing style. Some of them they use APA style, some of them they use Harvard style, Chicago style, MLA style. So there are many different styles. So it's your responsibility being an author that you need to provide accurate and correct format of references. 4 key questions when you start writing your research manuscript. What is this? And the answer should be given in introduction. What did you do? How did you do that? Should be answered in the method section. And what did you find? What were the findings of your research? Should be given in the results section. And then discuss the results and main findings. What does that mean? You need to infer, you need to provide a conclusion. So these 4 things: introduction, method, result, discussion. Introduction answers, what is this? Methodology answers, how did you do that? What did you do that? And results provide answer of what did you find? And discussion provides the meaning of your findings. Then also you need to understand the review process. Whenever you submit your research publication, research paper, manuscript for publication, it passes through a particular process, what we call it a review process. And sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's not that difficult. Sometimes you receive very harsh comments from reviewers, sometimes you receive encouraging comments. So it all parts of the game. So you need to understand that. Review process is something that whatever you put forward by means of your research manuscript will come back to you if it is published. And this diagram shows clearly, as an author, you draft your manuscript, submit to the journal, it passes through to editorial and production process. Then if it's published, it out for audience, your readers read through your article and you receive a reputation out of it. And then you start writing another one. This arrow diagram shows how it all works. As soon as you complete your research, you start preparing your manuscript. And then you select a journal, format your manuscript according to the guidelines given by the journal, and then you submit your manuscript. As soon as you submit your manuscript, it is reviewed by the editorial board. And then if they process your manuscript for peer review, it goes to peer review. But if they don't want your paper to be peer reviewed, they reject straight away. And there are many different things on the basis of which your paper will not go into the peer review process and it will be rejected straight away. And as soon as you receive a rejection, you will start again. If by chance you will receive a peer review intimation, it will pass through to the revision, and then you receive comments from your reviewers. Sometimes they ask for minor revision, sometimes they ask for major revision. You perform the revision accordingly, and then you resubmit. It will be re-reviewed, and again, if you don't comply, If you don't follow the comments provided by the reviewers, it will be rejected. And if it happens, then you will be again at the point 0. But if you perform everything well according to the reviewers' comments, it will definitely pass through to the process. It is accepted, and then it will be soon published. What you need to understand, some of the editors of very good journals, they say deadly sins are unethical behavior that you need to understand. And majority of time we don't understand, or we don't know, we don't follow some guidelines, and then we receive a rejection and even a ban from publishing in the journal. So we also need to understand few things. It's not only good writing, it's not only good English, it's not only good results finding everything. There are some ethical behavior that you need to follow. For example, multiple submissions, redundant publications, plagiarized material, data falsification, fabrication, data manipulation, improper use of human subjects, against the ethical guidelines, against the ethical behavior, and animal research, use of animal in research, and inappropriate author contribution. All these things are considered as deadly sins. It can lead to not only the rejection of your paper, but also more consequences. So you need to be very careful being an ethical researcher. Research misconduct you always need to avoid. Research misconduct means fabrication, falsification, manipulation, plagiarism, or other practices that seriously deviate from those that are commonly accepted within the research community for proposing, conducting, or publishing a research. So that you need to be very careful. You need to understand it's your responsibility being researcher, that whenever you write something, you need to show an ethical behavior. Why? Because sooner or later, even if you get successful by using some unethical attitude during your publication, it will be exposed, and then you will be facing consequences. How journals detect them? How journals detect your unethical behavior? They have in this digital age, they have a lot of parameters in place. They have a lot of tools in place. Information received from reviewers or readers or editors. Then they search literature digitally for related papers by the authors. They receive withdrawals of a paper, same paper, from publication. They can ban authors from publication in other journals for 3 to 5 years or more, according to the policy of the journal or the publication house. And the co-authors, editors of related journals, for their action, they can also inform others. For less serious cases, placing the author, they put you on watch list, they put you on ban sometimes. So don't put yourself, don't get into these kind of practices, because if you receive rejection, you can revise your manuscript. But if you receive rejection on one hand and ban from a journal on the other hand, then it will be very difficult for you to recover. So it's your responsibility when you are preparing a manuscript for submission. You have to understand the new and original data, new and original findings, new and original research. Also, it's your responsibility to check that all the authors are appropriate authors, ethical authors, as per authorship criteria, as you listed. It's your responsibility to obtain copyright permission. It's your responsibility to provide references whenever you have taken something from somewhere in an appropriate format. As I said already, accuracy and correctness of reference is the sole responsibility of author. You have to mention proper affiliation while working on a particular research, and it's your ethical responsibility to acknowledge the help and support and the funding agency and the organization and the personalities who have helped you in a particular research project. Criteria for acceptance. Originality is the number one criteria. You have to see that your research is original. If you are saying it's original, it needs to be original. Research quality. It is almost impossible to write a good research paper based on a poor research. So don't try to do that, because you will end up with unethical practices. Experimental design methodology, I have already mentioned. Research data presentation, depth of your investigation, your critical thinking, critical writing, analysis, and thorough and logical discussion of your findings based on your research question and the hypothesis that you are testing. Clarity of presentation is also very important. So you really need to understand how to organize. You have to follow complete guidelines. You have to consider all the guidelines which are provided by the journal, because in the end they will decide whether to publish or not. Paper is much more likely to be rejected based on an inadequate analysis than lack of originality. So having an original data or input for your publication is one thing, and appropriate analysis is another. So both the things are equally important. And then you have to show in your research publication that your research paper is important for the research world, for the research community that you are working in. What are the major reasons for rejection? I have been talking about it. I repeat, to make you aware of it, the study is just confirmatory. If you are just confirming the findings of other researchers, which they have already done, it's very likely that journal will not accept that research paper for publication. Methodology is not appropriate. Definitely, it will come back to you. Targeted journal is not suitable. You have to be very careful while selecting a journal. Read through, I repeat, read through to the scope of the journal, audience of the journal. Weakly written presentation language. I have said many times, you have to proofread your write-up many times. You have to use your friends, your colleagues, your co-authors, that whatever you have written, just get them on board and request them to check everything, sometimes many times. What are the do's and don'ts in the end? I would like to share with you. Be factual. If you are writing a research paper, you have to be very careful about the facts and figures. Be honorable. Don't criticize on other researchers. Even if you are going to contradict with them, you have to contradict in an honorable manner. Be legal. Illegal, illogical things cannot be accepted in research writing. Similarly, you have to be truthful. Only mention what you have done. Don't mention what you haven't done. So if you haven't done something and you propose that you have done, definitely it will be exposed sooner or later. And then I have already mentioned, because of those kind of unethical behaviors, what will happen or what may happen. Be objective and be accurate. I have said many times, accuracy and correctness is the sole responsibility, not only in referencing. I use these words that the correct reference and the accurate reference is the responsibility of author, but everything that you provide in your research paper should be accurate and should be correct. And again, I say again, it's the responsibility of author to provide accurate and correct information in your research paper. What you don't need to do, what you need to avoid: don't deceive, don't falsify, don't manipulate, don't exaggerate, and don't plagiarize. Plagiarism in research publication is a crime. In the end, with these few words, I would like to show my workplace where I have been working in the last few years at the University of Auckland, Faculty of Medical Health Sciences, as a postdoctoral research project worker, researcher. And at the moment, I'm working at Eastern Institute of Technology, EIT Auckland campus, as a postgraduate lecturer in the School of Health Science. And also I'm supervising master and above level researchers in the field of health sciences. Thank you so much for your attention, all the participants. I really appreciate it. And I wish you very best of luck in your research writing. And I'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you may have in this regard. Thank you once again.
We have great comments on the Facebook, but not questions, so we can finish.
I didn't hear you. Can you repeat, please?
I said a very informative and insightful session. I read the comments on the Facebook, so no questions. They ask the presentation, but I write tomorrow we have another session, so they can watch here.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not looking into Facebook at the moment, so I can't see any comments, but
Yes.
it should be all right.
Yes. So we are finished for today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Corina. And I don't know the name of the other lady. Thank you so much for guiding me throughout.
Bye.